Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and breaking news with conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, coming to you live from the East Coast, the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most, here on the Rundown. 2A views and conservative news. And Craig, woohoo! Guess what today is?
Oh, Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready? Oh.
All right, Mike. You know, I know we normally we have the preliminaries. We'll get into the preliminaries a little bit later. We got to just jump right into the show. You know what went down today, right?
Yes, I do.
Please tell the audience what went down.
Lost three in a row to the Dodgers. Dodgers swept the Mets, 3-game series.
Oh, Jesus. Lord, help this man. Help this man. he takes a 5-day weekend and forgets that there's stuff going on in the world outside of baseball.
You're right. Caitlin Clark. She's been not getting the support of her alternative and African American coworkers. Yes, she's too white and she's too straight. That's what they said to her.
There you go. Well, Mike, you know what? You too are too white and too straight. Therefore, you are fired. Donald Trump has been found guilty. That's right. He has been found guilty on all 34 counts. The first part, the only reason I'm using this story is because this is the first one that I saw that reported it. This is The Guardian. It says Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 counts. The jury has found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of it. I'm just going to go ahead and say, once again, falsifying business records, meaning he said the same thing on 34 different forms. And even though it's supposedly in coverage of the same crime, it's all the same crime, he's found guilty of 34 felonies. Now, Mike.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Reelected today. You know, it's every time they throw, it's like they're throwing cans of spinach at Popeye. This will take them down. This will take them down. Here's what I got, Craig. Here's the immediate polls, right? This is what we're seeing coming out. Nearly 3/4 of registered independents said that a guilty verdict against Trump would make no difference to how they vote. Just 11 among Republicans, 23 said they will be more inclined to vote for him now, versus 10 who said they were less likely to do so. And by the way, Craig, when you remember these, when you go to more likely and you vote out of anger, that means you really go vote. When it's 10% that less likely, it means...
That's pretty much what Donald Trump said in his reaction to the verdict. In fact, let's go ahead and play that for the audience.
Are you worried about going to jail? This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't bring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution.
Once again, he made it very clear. I'll say this: Donald Trump is not innocent. He's innocent of this crime, but dude, you don't survive being have the level of success as a businessman that he has in New York by being totally innocent. But put it to you this way. I'm sure that Donald Trump is guilty of absolutely nothing that people would not expect a New York real estate tycoon to be guilty of. All that having been said, he is right. This was number one, one of the things that in these cases that's very important is what's called the jury instructions. The jury instructions are kind of where the judge tells the jury, okay, this is the things you're supposed to do and the things you're supposed to consider in this particular case. Now, I made it very clear when I talked about it a couple of times this week. During all the way through the trial, there was never any mention as to what the crime was that he was guilty of. Crime, right? They never said what it was until the closing arguments. And the closing arguments, to be clear, closing and opening arguments are not evidence in a trial. Now, to make it worse, so in other words, there was never anything offered in evidence in terms of what the crime was, right? But to make it worse, need unanimity to convict. They do not need to all agree on what occurred. 4 can agree on one crime, 4 can agree on a different crime, and another 4 can agree on another. In other words, Mike, they never said what the crime was, so he's like, well, whatever you think he did, you just got to think he did something. And that's all it is required. Now, if that is not judicial malpractice, I do not know what is. They offered something not in evidence. They never made evidence. They never offered an argument. And now all of a sudden, here we are. This is beyond if you will be allowed to appeal, right? Once it goes through the process, I believe that if the process works, he will be all the charges will be dropped. He will be found to be not guilty. Or at the worst, he will be found guilty of 34 misdemeanors.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. And by the time this gets through the appellate system, right, it goes through the New York appellate, then it goes to the New York Supreme Court, then it goes to, down there to the Supreme Court of the United. He's just coughing, and he's done. He's done, just like that. It's over with. It's over with.
I think he needs to let it play out, and I say that for this reason. I think he needs to let it play out at least through the appellate process, because I think that I would hate for it to seem like justice didn't get done. I would like for him to be able to be exonerated.
Nah, as president, he needs nothing to be a distraction to being president. Okay? At that point, if he wants to say, as of January 20th of this year, it's on hold. We'll put it on hold for 4 years. We'll come back at that point, but we will not discuss this for 4 years. Or the only way to do that is to go, pardon me, a can of spinach at Popeye. They're making them stronger every day.
But Mike, I don't know if I watch MSNBC, I watch CNN, I watch their legal analyses, and there is nobody who has said that they made their case, that the prosecution made their case. In fact, you had folks on those shows who were the legal experts. Don't like Donald Trump. You don't have to agree why you don't like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just find him guilty.
There's old English law that describes this case. It is, 'tis a crock of shit and it stinketh.
Yeah, you know that was the drink back in the day, right?
And it stinketh. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that and my St. Ives. Come on.
St. Ives.
Come on, I'm with
you. Do you want to go to the liquor store and get some St. Ives, baby? Get some St. Ives. Yes.
Yep. 40 ounces of it. Yep.
40 ounces of blood. There you go. Anyway, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking forward to the next few days. We're going to see a number of different polls come out. And what the polls are going to show is a surge for Donald Trump. The only bad thing about this is it probably happened a little earlier than it would have been best for him. But pain trail, and it's not going to work. It really, honestly, truly is not going to work.
I think it adds another day for him, Craig. It's like getting another Super Bowl. You got the debate coming up, right? And Biden's going to have to address this at the debate, right? You can't ignore what's the big stage after that. Then you've got the convention, right? You've just added another Super Bowl event for this guy.
There is, first of all, if you look at the polls, everyone agrees to call it. If you're on the right, you tend to think of it as a political persecution. If you're on the left, you tend to think of it as a political prosecution. But the reality is that everyone knows that it was political, and the goal was to keep him from becoming president of the United States again. This is going to go all bad for them, for the Democrats. And it's funny because I have had a number of people, yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Yeah, well, I think now that he's a convicted felon, I think we're allowed to vote for him multiple times. Isn't that right?
I think so. I think we're both early and often. There you go. I think he's moving to Chicago.
Yeah,
That was not our lead story an hour ago, but we're able to move and be flexible on the move. And just folks, there's going to be a lot. This is not the end. Let me just tell you right now, this is not the end. It's not the end of this story. It's not the happy ending. I also believe firmly that the courts are eventually going to wind up throwing this verdict out. I have confidence in our judicial system that once it goes through the process, it'll get thrown out. That's just me. Maybe that's just me.
My only concern, the sentencing hearing. Then we add number 3, we add the conventions. Now after that, you can have some appeal dates, initial appearances for appeals. These are going to continue to raise Donald Trump's, his steadfast, his loyal, his numbers are going to go up. Do they go up so much because the Democrats have a chance? Let's get him out of there. Let's bring Newsom in here and mess with this in the last 60 days before the election.
Well, you now know. I don't know if you saw this, but they've actually pushed up the nomination process so that they can nominate him digitally, and they want to do it like coming up here real soon. Now, this way. If you look at the only thing that they gain by getting rid of Joe Biden is the fact that he is old and decrepit, the fact that he is turning senile. What Joe Biden has done tenfold, right? Who are you gonna do? You Gavin Newsom, guy who went from $100 billion surplus to a $70 billion deficit. The guy who's passed sanctuary policies and letting everybody in.
But none of that matters to a Democrat. They'll print.
The voters recognize that the policies that are failing. It ain't just Joe Biden that Joe Biden is old. It's that he is a leftist. He is a neo-Marxist, or at least the people running him are a neo-Marxist. His puppet masters, the ones pulling the strings, are neo-Marxists who have destroyed our educational process.
Far-right Trump supporters don't go to vote because they want to see Trump beat Biden to prove the election was rigged. So less people will vote if it's not Biden.
Yes, and so here's the only reason why I will disagree with that. Either voted for Trump, or even if you didn't vote for Trump, but you hate Democrats in that first election in 2016. Remember that fictions, how they went into this depressive state that was, oh my God. Just remember that feeling. It's going to happen again. You got to hilarious. So you gotta show up, and we gotta encourage people. Look, this thing ain't over. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not going to be over when Donald Trump gets elected because they're going to fight to keep him from being able to do anything. We're going to work to continue his work. We got to fight.
Yeah, I think I know who that would be too. I think that might be his newest buddy, Cap, to tell the state of New York, oh yeah, try and bring New York down to Florida and get him. That's not even a crime here. Come on, baby. Come on, we'll move to White House right here to Tallahassee.
What's that? Florida around and find out? As much fun as I've had with that story, we got a couple of others that we got to make sure that we hit today. And I wanted to make sure because one of them has to do with a very, very big victory. It has to do with a victory for the National Rifle Association.
Oh, I thought you said the Dodgers. Okay.
No, not the Dodgers. Definitely not the Dodgers. But it has to do with the Supreme Court, and it has to do with them siding with the National Rifle Association. The same New York government that went after Donald Trump. Same New York government. It says the Supreme Court ruled Thursday that the National Rifle Association can pursue a claim that the New York state officials' efforts to encourage companies to end ties with the gun rights group constituted unlawful coercion. The justices unanimously, let me say that again, unanimously found that the NRA can move forward with its arguments that its free speech rights under the Constitution's First Amendment rights were violated by the actions of Maria Vullo, then the superintendent of the New York State Department of Financial Services. And basically what she did was she went out and was part of a campaign to make sure that people would not do business with the NRA, to cut them off financially, right? Credit card processing, everything that she went after them for. She tried to make sure that they couldn't do banking, any of that stuff. And this is, once again, the same government engaging in political prosecution or persecution via prosecution.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, Miss Vullo there, she worked
Hula.
for, I think is just another example of the gross and out of touch government of the state of New York, that they decide, between a chief executive, their governor, who gets ousted from office.
That's kind of a new thing, Times change, customs change, and things that might have been appropriate in the past are no longer appropriate now. At least that's what former Governor Cuomo said.
Yes, right. And Craig, you're up there. You're pretty old. I remember in school in the '70s, RA was part of the was one of the, hopefully had to become an amendment and all that.
Well,
so it was
now,
a big deal.
Unless you are a Democrat elected official or you're in Hollywood, then it's okay.
In the '60s, you were allowed to evidently smack a woman's butt. We missed that. Been slapping butts ever since. Given creepy shoulder rubs and all that. And so he takes his old perverted policies with him when they jerk him out of office. And Kathy Hochul comes in and does the same thing, and she's got the same kind of cronyism going underneath her. You've got so much control. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Okay.
There's
but I thought you said she was touching butts.
Well, metaphorically. Okay.
Okay.
She became one of the good old boys. I'm not saying she did anything like the group that will do whatever it takes to stay in power.
As long as we're very clear, Cuomo was actually touching butts.
Oh, well, he actually touched the butts. Yeah. And he's like a 70-year-old Italian dude in New York. I think that is legal, actually, I think.
Some nations. It says here, government officials cannot attempt to coerce private parties in order to punish or suppress views that the government disfavors. Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote on behalf of the court ruling Thursday. Now, there is another government entity, government group, government officials that sought to and worked with private entities, specifically social media companies and the internet, to coerce them in order to punish and
not off the top of my head, Craig. No, none at all.
How about Badaketa Kefker?
I know you're talking about Major League Baseball. You're talking about MLB.
No. I'm talking about my butts have been wiped.
Yeah. Well, listen, everywhere, and everywhere knows this, Craig. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Everywhere knows this except for D.C. and New York City, evidently, or Albany, New York. Every place else knows. You can't do that. We make movies on that stuff.
I'm still waiting for people to start talking about this MAGA Supreme Court and that MAGA Justice Sonia Sotomayor,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But dude, This is how bad the left has jumped the shark. Nah. And the reason why, by the way, just so you know, the reason why they're like that is because I think they have an inkling that a certain orange-haired man is going to be president of the United States, that there would be some coercing and some punishing and some silencing going on.
Oh, exactly right, Craig, because on the next Capitol tourism event on January 20th, when they all gather in the Capitol, like a Judge Sotomayor might be one of them.
Yep. There you go. Anyway, I will just tell you that is so. Anyway, folks, that is a big ruling, not just for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's because now we get a chance to see was working to undermine the rights and the speech of of a group whose mission is to facilitate the exercising of a constitutional right. But not only that, the fact that it was Ricks and Brown, that means Sotomayor, all agreed. Even Roberts, that statist, agreed. Right?
I don't know if you know that I've actually got 3 albums by Jackson.
That they can to try and get as things are coming forward, because I think Trump has a case that is going to be going forward to the Supreme Court. We've got January 6th stuff that's going to be going forward, and Congress is doing everything possible. They're too extreme to be able to have their voices heard. And in a move that, quite frankly, I did not anticipate, and I must say, and I wanted to do the story because I wanted to give him a little bit of credit, Chief Justice John Roberts declines to meet with Democrat lawmakers about ethics flap and Alito flags. Just to read here real quick, it says Chief Justice John Roberts on Thursday rejected a meeting request from Democratic lawmakers who wanted to discuss 2 provocative flags hoisted as Justice Samuel Alito's properties. Quote, separation of powers concerns the importance of preserving judicial independence. Counsel against such appearances, Roberts wrote in a letter released by the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice's letter landed a day after Alito told lawmakers in his own letters that he will not recuse in cases involving January 6, 2021 tour of the U.S. Capitol. Alito said that his wife, Martha Ann Alito, hoisted an upside-down American flag in their Virginia home in January 2021 in response to a neighborhood spat. He said she also raised the Appeal to Heaven flag at their New Jersey property last summer. My wife is fond of flying flags, Alito wrote. I am not. Now, Mike, for some reason, they seem to want to think that because, you're a Supreme Court justice, that your spouse gives up any right to freedom of speech or to fly flags.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see what Justice Roberts did when he showed them, Craig? And then you take the remote, you go like this, click, and your hand goes.
Mike, I had no idea where you were going with that one.
That's what he gave him. Hey,
by the way, Patrick, the good foodie has chimed in. He said,
"I'm curious."
Well, now, if you followed Star Trek Discovery, you would know that she is now president of Earth.
Well, I don't follow Star Trek Discovery because it's liberal woke nonsense and of Georgia.
Yes, she does. But once again, what gets me about this is, so you have one flag tradition that literally is one that has always being a sign of distress, of the country being in distress. You also have the Appeal to Heaven's flag, which once again was commissioned by George Washington, right? Commissioned by George Washington when? Back during the Revolutionary War. The fact that they now want to say, decided that they were going to fly that flag, that now it has entirely new meaning. Doesn't mean anything that it used to mean. They now own that meaning. You know what, Mike? Here's the funniest part about it is, do you know that flag was flying? And I think it was in the San Francisco Convention Center, literally until just this San Francisco government grounds. I can say that. I can say that definitively.
Yeah. It's actually one of the reasons, and when you study military tactics, that they believe the British Army lost because, right? So when in last call distress, Americans would change the American flag and fly it upside down to show that we were in trouble. The British tried that also, Craig. They took their Union Jack down and put it on upside down.
Okay, that's funny stuff. Hey, folks, just real quick before, I just want to make sure to give a quick shout out. Folks, look, if you're watching from X, formerly Twitter, do us a favor. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to subscribe and recommend us to your friends. Please make sure to do that real quick. There's one other thing that we got to do.
Let's say hi to Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. If you got yourself an AR in the past 5 years, probably got one of their barrels, you don't even know it. Well, now you can buy from them factory direct for your next AR build or rebarreling your current platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. Sealed holsters on the market. Get on over to Hog Holsters. That's HAWG, hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all one word, no spaces, all caps. Get a nice little discount. And if you're looking for the best in field gear, tack.
That's right, folks. These are our sponsors. Please take a moment. You can find links to their websites in the description to this program. Check them out. Spend some money with them. Make sure you tell them that the guys over at the Rundown. Raskin. Now, Representative Raskin, in a former life before he joined Congress, fancied himself to be a constitutional professor in the Constitution or constitutional law. A recommendation as to how the Alito and Thomas, because Thomas happens to be a conservative, they want him off of the case as well. But talks about how they can be forced off the Trump case. And we're going to talk about the Newsweek coverage of it, because I absolutely positively refuse to give the New York Times a cent of my money. So here it talks about, it says, Maryland Representative Jamie Raskin has said that U.S. Supreme Court justices could be removed from former President Donald Trump's presidential immunity ruling by petition of the Justice Department. Raskin's theory, written in an op-ed published by the New York Slime Times on Wednesday, follows the recent controversy involving Justice Samuel Alito, who was caught. This happened a couple of years ago, folks. Who was caught flying two flags outside his residence that were associated with the Stop the Steal movement and the riots in the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Notice that they left out, and I wish, this makes me mad with the Newsweek and the mainstream media. They could have pointed out that they were two flags that were also associated with, the American Revolution. Anyway, I digress. In response to several critics have called for Alito, a conservative, to remove himself from the high court's ruling on Trump's immunity case, who is seeking protection from the federal charges related to his actions in the aftermath of the 2020 election through presidential immunity, as well as any cases related to January 6th that comes before the Supreme Court. Now, the bulk of his argument, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time reading their stuff, the bulk of his argument just surrounds the idea that the Justice Department can't tell you right now, justices are not going to vote to remove the power of another justice or the ability of another justice to sit on a case. And trust me, Alito and Thomas, by the way, both have absolutely nowhere near conflicts of interest as some of the other justices. So there's absolutely positively no way, in fact, that they are going to go ahead and do this or be okay with this. But I just find it funny that they've gone out of their way to try and make sure that completely against the idea of separation of powers. But the thing that really gets me about it, Mike, is that chances are I believe Alito is going to turn back and say, yeah, no, you don't have blanket immunity. It didn't have anything to do with your job as president. And in the end, by the way, I think that's going to wind up being a unanimous decision as well.
I'm sorry, Craig, you said something about Jamie Raskin, and I think it was the truth. I mean, this guy is so far down the, what we consider serious. Well, here's a way I'm going to figure out to take Supreme Court justices off the bench, move on. Only the New York Times would print your stuff because you paid them to. That's all there is to it.
Well, and that's because that's really all they really do is do exactly what the New York Times tells them to do. The PR arm of the Democratic Party.
That's right.
All right, folks. I know we're running a little long today, but guess what? We're still going to do our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Well, today's parting shots are going to be in honor of the verdict to ship extra large cans of spinach to Donald Trump's campaign. And that's really what it is, right?
Yep. Just Manny being Manny. It's a little baseball reference for you.
There you go. Found guilty of being Donald Trump. But this also then I think goes to the other theme of
That's it. That's what happened today. More re-election, more polls, more votes.
exactly. And you want to know why? Marked safe from giving a shit about a trial verdict, still voting for Trump. And the polls are consistent with that, aren't they?
The ones I like are the ones that say, wasn't voting for him before, but how dare you? Now I am.
Yes, those are fun. Those are definitely fun. All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today. We already did the shout out kind of not too long ago, so we're not going to do our second shout out. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you liking and sharing the program. However you are partaking in the program, I see a lot of you are live chat as the program is taking place. With that having been said, we very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encourage you to join us again tomorrow on Free Flow.